I'm Jonathan Goldstein, and you're listening to an all-new episode of Wiretap on CBC Radio 1 and Sirius Satellite Radio 159. Today's episode, The Age of Love, in which Josh finds a missus for his kisses, all of my kisses are misses, and Rob Corddry reminisces about a lifetime of kisses.
When people ask what I do for a living, I hesitate to tell them. Why? Because I operate a kissing booth. You see, I don't want to come off as some kind of gigolo who thinks his kisses are worth paying for, and it ain't pervy or crotchy neither. I'm just an average man who happens to have a not-so-average profession that involves sharing his not-so-average kisses. My kisses are sweeter than sweetmeats soaked in cough syrup, the grape kind. That when you're a kid you want to drink a whole bottle of? That kind. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I think the Love Boat pinball machine in my basement and the four-door Mazda with cruise control in my garage speak pretty eloquently to my skills that pay the bills. Oh, who am I kidding? Skills that used to pay the bills. Professional kissers don't have too long a shelf life, and as I limp along towards the big 5-0, things have been getting a little lean. Until recently, kissing has been pretty good to me, just as it had been for my daddy and his daddy before. You see, the carnival kissing booth's a family business. My grandpap started it in 1912 after arriving from Lithuania with nothing but 15 cents, a satchel of kissing schmaltz, and a dream to make out with women for money. I grew up watching brown and white footage of him, the 12-hour kiss-a-thons of the roaring 20s, kissing through a gas mask during the air raids, and of course, the famous newsreel from the night he Eskimo-kissed Eleanor Roosevelt at a Democratic fundraiser. Grandpap said the smoke jetting out of old Franklin D's nose cracked his nostril monocle in two. But coming from a family of professional kissers wasn't all fun. While other dads were out playing catch with their kids in the backyard, my dad, Lil Pap, was in the basement doing lip push-ups or practicing his tongue technique with a slab of raw liver. You see, kissing was serious business in our house, not something you messed around with for kicks. In fact, throughout my entire childhood, I don't recall my dad ever kissing my mom once. He always thought it was too risky. With Valentine's Day coming up, he'd say, I have to keep these smackers safe. Wouldn't want to catch a canker sore. If he could, he'd have kept his lips in a viola case. Lil Pap was a big waver, though. Waved me off to summer camp, 3 years of military school, and 11 hernia operations. And at night, he'd lean into my doorway and tenderly wave me goodnight. At about the age of 12, Dad started my education in the business, teaching me the stuff you could never learn from the movies. That's because they can't get a camera inside people's mouths, and that's where the magic happens. So, by sticking my hand through the back of a raw liver cutlet and directly into Lil Pap's mouth, I could see and feel everything. And I learnt to make my tongue work a lady's tonsils like a prize fighter working a speed bag. Lil Pap taught me every kiss in the book. Butterfly, Sacramento Red Lip, Pepperidge Pinwheel, the Figure Eight, Big Cannon Kiss, Small Cannon Kiss, Plum Flower Kiss, Mongolian Saliva Ball, and even the Talking Kiss. That's where you kiss while talking. So good. Yum. That kind of thing. And then there's the stuff that can't be taught, that Lil Pap said I needed to learn for myself, on the job like. Knowing when to do that sound right in a milady's ear, for instance. You know the sound. Try using the Google search engine to find that. There were trickier moves, too. Kisses he said you shouldn't even attempt until 10 years in, like the crouching chicken hidden basket kiss. Requires you eat an entire chicken in the basket an hour before kissing. Your lips and gums must achieve an oily sheen that glistens powerfully enough to make an alley cat squint, Dad said. That was the kiss that won your mother's heart. Why, just hearing the words chicken and or basket is still enough to make me randy. Save that one for the woman you marry, son. Until then, always keep your lips and your heart on the business side of the counter. And that's precisely what I've done. Never married, never had any kids of my own, never even kissed a girl who didn't plop down a quarter first. Didn't want anything to get in the way of my craft. Little did I know, it wouldn't be dames that had ruined the Feldman & Son Carnival Kissing Emporium, but rather the march of time itself. Nowadays, our old booth is dwarfed by massive carnival thrill rides. It's gotten so the gentle strains of air supply from my boombox are drowned out by the collective retching of 200 teenagers losing their lunch on the Goliath El Toro. It's a different world, Mitchie, friends say to cheer me up. A less romantic one. And yet, I can't help looking in the mirror each morning and thinking that it's me, my aged sepulchral kisser, and my deathbed-smelling kisses that have killed a dynasty. When I'm feeling a bit down on myself like this, I like to spruce up a bit. I iron my lipstick hanky, toothpick out all the crud and celery string from between my chompers, and just in case a little miss has a most curious tongue, I scrape the guck off my cheek walls with a melon baller. And then I don a tuxedo, the one my grandpap was buried in. Long story. Nice tux, said Colin as I opened up shop. Elephant man going a courtin'? Not today, Colin, I said, swallowing hard. Colin was the greasy little 17-year-old carnival rat who ran the whack-a-mole game next door. Seriously, Colin went on, why would anyone want to kiss you? Your mom sure seems to like to. That was Dee Dee, chiming in from her perch above the dunk tank. She was always sticking up for me. Dee Dee's job was sitting in a chair over the water in a clown suit, cursing up a storm at people to rile them into trying to dunk her. Hey, glasses, she'd scream out to a man wearing glasses. You couldn't hit your mother's fat arse with a steam shovel. Thing was, though, that underneath all that bluster, Dee Dee was just about the sweetest, shyest person you'd ever want to meet. In fact, a few years back at the carnival Christmas party, we had what I guess you could call a moment. I just had one of my busiest days yet, having kissed damn near 100 dames, including 2 sets of twins, an 89-year-old society lady with no teeth, and a gentleman with a penchant for orange lipstick and collar clutching. My puckers were tuckered. I had to forego my usual eggnog straw and go at it strawless to give my lips a rest. I was probably into my 3rd Dixie cup when Dee Dee walked up to me from across the room, drew real close, and pointed out how I was standing under the mistletoe. Didn't even say nothing, just sort of pointed upwards, staring at her feet. Oops, I said, looking up, my bad. Then I wandered off to finish my drink under a bare light bulb. It was only later that night, lying alone in bed, that I realized what Dee Dee was hinting at. Anywho, all for the best, no freebies, not on Christmas, not for nothing and for no one. My mom is too young and hot for you, old man, said Colin, snapping me out of my reverie. And why don't you shave that goatee already? I can smell the lollipop drool from here. First of all, it's a goatee, and this goatee is a fence around the glorious garden that is my lips. I looked over at Dee Dee for a little backup, but she was already back to work, cursing out some Navy guy, telling him he looked like one of Donald Duck's nephews. I'll let you in on a trick of the trade. The secret to a good lip lube is simple armpit perspiration. And so it happened that afternoon, Colin found me working up a good, honest armpit sweat trying to open a stuck jar of pickles. Quite a workout. Yo, Smoochie, Colin hollered in my ear. Not now, I grunted, startled. But it was too late. Suddenly, the pickles were loose, and my tuxedo soaked in juice. Great, I said. What is it? Mike wants to see you, he said. There's a rumor going around that he wants to fire your ass. Mike ran the pier. He was also an old friend of my dad's. As I made my way over to his office, Dee Dee caught my eye, and underneath her makeup clown frown, I could make out the hint of an actual frown, a sympathetic one. I found Mike seated behind his desk, sorting through piles of bills. "How's business?" he asked. "A little slow," I said. "It'll pick up." This was our routine. "Mitchie, you know me and little Pap were like brothers." "Of course," I said. "When I was a kid, I used to call you Uncle Pap, Pappy Pap." "So you know I say this with great admiration. Kissing booths are a young man's game, and you're starting to show a little wear and tear." "I beg your pardon? It's not me. It's this blasted economy. I read those multicolored graphs in USA Today, and they're all totally going downward." "Mitchie, you're 48, a good 50 pounds overweight, and quite frankly, that goatee of yours emits an odor. Pickle juice, if I'm not mistaken." "I'll have you know," I said, "there was a time when the line outside my booth wound past the haunted house, around the Ferris wheel, and into the alley behind Auntie Tanya's cotton candy shack." "Well, that ain't now," Mike said. "Come on," I said. "We can get our hands on one of those computer printers and make us some Groupons. What do you say?" "I got offers on the space, Mitchie. You're just not cutting it. Now, your daddy owned that shack outright, so you'll make a nice profit. Let you retire early and put those lips of yours around a nice old cigar for a change. Be a good look for you. Might go well with a sailor cap. I'm sorry, Mitchie." I stepped out of Mike's office feeling soul-sick, ludicrous in my tuxedo. The spats felt cumbersome, the cummerbund constricting, and the dicky chafing. Truth was that lately I'd been getting by on a handful of regulars. Like Carol, for instance, 74 years old, says that until me, she hadn't kissed anyone but her poodles in years. She kissed long and hard. She touched my face, her eyes shut tight. She called me Barney. It slipped out in whispers at first, but then she'd just say it out loud over and over. I swear after she'd leave, I'd just close shop and get the blues real bad. Who was Barney, I'd wonder? What did he mean to her? Would I ever find my Barney? The irony is that I gave up on women so I could concentrate on kissing, and now, without my work, I had nothing. I'd probably become one of those guys who shows up at barbecues, has a few too many, and can't stop showing off his old pro moves on a chunk of raw veal before it hits the grill. You know the type. One of those French kissing barbecue meats kinds of guys. I walked around the fairgrounds, weaving through the rides and games, taking in the smell of cotton candy, vomit, and cotton candy vomit one last time. Eventually, I made it back to my booth and started clearing out my belongings. 1 stick of cherry chapstick, a bottle of cinnamon mouthwash, and 4 Air Supply cassettes. Lost in Love, The One That You Love, The Book of Love, and Love and Other Bruises. There was also a kissing bandit mask I'd wear on Halloween. Some legacy. "Hey, Hot Lips," Dee Dee called from her perch above the dunk tank. "You kiss your mama with that mouth?" I called back. Dee Dee hopped down and came over. "I heard about your getting canned," she said. I wanted to say something tough-sounding and cool. Something about blowing this pop stand and taking my show on the road, possibly to Vegas. But instead, I started weeping. "What will I do? What will I do?" "Hey," she said, touching the side of my face and drying my tears with her oversized clown glove. Suddenly, the pit of despair in my gut felt full of moths. Maybe butterflies. Probably moths. Dee Dee moved her face closer to mine, and unlike Under the Mistletoe, I didn't run. She put her lips to mine and kissed me softly. I can't quite explain it, but kissing a woman off the clock was different than doing it for money. I felt my chest unravel, my head start to buzz, and my groin do a sort of slow-motion hula dance. I also felt tremendously grateful. "It'll be okay," Dee Dee said sweetly. I clung to her tightly, and this time I kissed her back. But not just with my lips. I kissed her with my whole self. I kissed Dee Dee again and again, and as Colin catcalled from the whack-a-mole, and the rides above us roared, I kept on kissing Dee Dee with everything I had.
While standing in line at the grocery checkout counter, I hear that song, the one by Sting, Englishman in New York. And it must just be my mood, but I actually begin to tear up. I imagine him, that poor Englishman, walking around in his frock coat and cravat, looking for bangers and mash, asking for the loo, and only getting bewildered stares. Just awful.
Hello, bonjour.
Oh, hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. As the cashier rings me up, I hope she'll really take notice of me. I believe my drying tears bring a certain melancholic nobility to my face, turn it into something a woman could really fall in love with.
Oh, are these walnuts part of your order?
No, actually, I came in with those.
Oh, gotcha.
When I was younger and leaving a store, I'd always worry that the alarm might go off. This in spite of never stealing anything. I just always felt guilty somehow. Like there was something about merely being alive that was slightly embarrassing, if not downright criminal. But since entering my 40s, the world gives me the benefit of the doubt.
Huh, that's a lot of yogurt you got there.
Yeah, well, I'm a lot of man. Another benefit of age is having a wider range of attractions.
I bet you are.
You see the beauty of the 50s-ish grocery cashier in a way you couldn't have when you were younger. You see in her all of her ages at once, the coquettishness of 20 and the cocksure cool of 30. You see the woman in her 40s who is still uncovering the surprising pockets of attractiveness that she may well have thought lost.
Need a bag with that?
Seeing it all feels like having acquired a new kind of depth perception.
Thanks, have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Before leaving, I throw a full dime into the take a penny, leave a penny tray, and I wink. It seems like the kind of thing an Englishman in Montreal might do. And if I'm not mistaken, the cashier seems impressed. Hello.
Wasn't last night majestic? Magical.
Okay.
Magical. I mean,
it was
as
a
if
nice time.
last night was a wonderful double date. Suzette, I mean, her eyes, they just drank me in all night. And I was quaffing her like a fine wine. You know, like the wine that we bought, not the bottle of wine that you bought, which cost, what was it, $11?
You know what? I wasn't paying attention
Chateau de Chipscate? That means cheapskate, by the way.
What?
Did you see how Suzette was looking at me all night?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know what that is? That's longing.
Oh, I see.
We were buzzing. It was like a hive, full of honey.
Yeah.
And your companion for the evening, she seemed, what was her name again?
Nancy.
Nancy.
I don't know her that well. She's a cashier I just met.
I'd never have guessed. You seemed to chitter-chat like a couple of strangers all night. It's not looking too much like there's a date number 2 rolling around.
Yeah.
I would say that her best trait was really the way that she didn't really seem to care for you very much. I mean, and by that I mean she treated you like garbage, like the garbage that you are.
All right.
But Suzette and I mean, that we finish each other's sentences, we finish each other's foods, we have this connection. It's so deep and profound. Whereas your connection was profoundly disappointing.
Why is everything like a competition?
What do you mean like
I mean,
a
you found someone that you're happy with. That's great.
I'm not happy. I'm ecstatic. Why can't you be happy?
I am
Why
happy
is it so hard
for you.
Look, it's not even just my impression. I mean, everybody loves Suzette. I mean, did you see the way the waiter was flirting with her right in front of me, shamelessly? I mean, he was enamored. Mm-hmm. cab driver on the way over.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, everybody.
It's good.
Ahem. So?
So what?
Why are you holding out on me?
What are you talking about?
What are you not talking about? How about that? You're not talking about what you thought of Suzette. You haven't even volunteered anything.
I told you. Well, you
haven't told me a single thing. We've been concentrating overwhelmingly on the failure of your dismal attempt at hooking up with a romantic liaison.
You know
That's what you've been talking about.
I'm not talking about that. You've been talking about
Well,
that.
everyone's talking about it. I talked about it with the waiter on the way out of the restaurant. We were laughing at you.
You know,
are you going out on a second date? I don't mean to be too bald about it.
I don't know if we're going out on a second date, but that's
then
going
you
to
may
be...
be the only one who doesn't know.
You know, you're a real Mr. Sensitivity, aren't you?
It's for your own good. Why would you want to be trapped in a loveless marriage for 30 years? Like your parents.
I didn't think you can get any more obnoxious, but I guess I've never seen you in love.
No, but seriously, what'd you think of her? Great, right? I mean, really great.
Josh,
come on.
To be honest with you...
That's what I need.
The first thing that came to mind when I walked into the restaurant...
Wait, let me guess. Was it her figure?
Well, no, it wasn't exactly her figure. It was her face.
Beautiful face. I mean, flawless, really.
Well, that's not what
So nice to look at.
Josh, Suzette looks exactly like you. I mean, it's uncanny. She looks like your doppelganger. It's bizarre.
What are you talking? She looks nothing like me.
Josh.
I think you've lost your mind.
Josh, she has a mole in the exact same spot as you do, right?
Who doesn't have... What are you, anti-molist now?
Josh, her coloration, her skin, her hair color...
There's thousands of white people in the world.
Everything about... She was the exact same height as you.
There are millions of people with the same coloration, the same height.
Nancy couldn't get over it. She thought that you were brother and sister. Do you remember when you guys started, making out at the table? Which, by the way, in the best of circumstances, really inappropriate.
There was no fondling.
It looked like a brother and a sister making out.
What a bunch of foo-for-ah.
Okay. Do you remember when you were kissing her at the table?
Oh, boy, do I remember. Such an active tongue. Her tongue darted around like an angry trout.
Okay. Ugh.
I don't know when the last time you actually kissed someone that you actually cared for, but it's like being in your own embrace. It's so warm and comforting and familiar.
It feels like you're in your own embrace because you are in your own embrace. This whole thing is a triumph of your own narcissism.
No.
Josh, do you have a picture of Suzette?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Could you...
Got it on my phone right here.
I want you to take a look at Suzette and with a completely open mind, okay? And try to see what I'm telling you.
Okay, I'm bringing up this video here. Here we go. I got here. Look at her. She's not even doing anything. This is just a video of her face. Oh, she's gorgeous and charming at the same time. Looking right back at me, right at the camera. She's pretty. Why is it so dark, though? Let me just up the contrast here. What's going on here? My phone's not even on. Wait, my battery died this morning. What am I looking at? Does that mean I'm just looking in a Am I looking at the black, glossy surface of my phone reflecting back at me?
Okay, I'm gonna let you
myself
be alone with that.
This is me.
Good talk.
In a mirror.
I'm gonna just let you finish.
I've always found myself kind of sensual, but all my life I've been looking for that perfect someone. Who'd have known it's me? Look at my eyelashes. Look at that. They do this little peeking thing. It's darling. Hey guys.
On Wiretap today, you heard Joshua Carpati and Rob Corddry, whose TV show Children's Hospital can be seen Thursdays at midnight on Adult Swim. The story he read was written by me and based on a tweet by John Tucker, whose terrific new novel Putts of the Century can be purchased at Amazon.com. Special thanks today to Susan McKenzie and Tandy Shimarenga. I'd also like to dedicate today's episode to the memory of Jacqueline McClintock, who was my teacher and my friend. Wiretap is produced by Mira Burt-Wintonic, Crystal Duhame, and me, Jonathan Goldstein. Tune into Wiretap Saturdays at 3:30 and Thursday evenings at 11:30. You can also hear Wiretap across North America on Sirius Satellite Radio 159, or subscribe to the podcast at cbc.ca/wiretap, where you can also watch the first episode in our brand new series of instructional videos. This week, I teach you how to make a prison cappuccino. So be sure to check it out at cbc.ca/wiretap. And while you're there, download the latest Wiretap ringtone.
So good. Yum.
A mouth-watering smooch from Rob Corddry with every ring of your phone.